Hi, I'm Judy. Welcome to Go with Yin Yoga. Today I'd like to give you a short introduction to Dragonfly Pose and some of its variations. So you will need a few props. I suggest a couple blankets. I'm sitting on some at the moment. And if you are sitting on them, you want to sit towards the edge of them. The idea behind that is to get your seat, your knees above your hips, or rather your hips above your knees. Sorry about that. And it just makes the pose more comfortable for most people. You can also sit on a bolster. And you can also sit on a block. All are great options. So in Dragonfly Pose, another thing you can do with these blankets, you can take them and put them out underneath your legs. And Dragonfly Pose is pretty simple. This is it. You're just stretching your legs out to either side of your mat, facing the long end of your mat. Of course, you can face the short end of your mat, but you're taking up pretty much your whole mat. So this is Dragonfly Pose. Some people can get their legs straight out. Obviously, I cannot. Personally, I don't see a need in our life where we need to have our legs quite that flexible, but to each their own. But this does help with strengthening our hips. It helps with strengthening our inner thighs, and depending on the variations that we take, it can also help with our hamstrings and even our low back and side body. So this is Dragonfly. And if this is too difficult for you, there are a couple of options. The first is you can take half Dragonfly. So you would bend one knee, bring the sole of your foot into the thigh of the opposite leg, and then you would go and take your torso over the opposite leg. And you can either stay right up here, or you can begin to lower over that leg. So that's half Dragonfly. And the other option, if this is too much for you, is to bend the knees however much you need to, and take your feet to the mat. And that works very similar areas in our body. And over time, if you practice it over time, you should increase the range of motion in your body. And you should also be aware that the range of motion in our body is different for everybody, because our personal anatomy is different. The way the ball of our hip fits in the socket is different for everybody. And that can affect how wide apart you can get your legs. Okay, let's see. So you can also take this into a twist. And that would just be bringing yourself over towards one side, and then you can begin to walk your hands down. If this feels uncomfortable, but you don't feel like you need to take half Dragonfly, and you don't feel like you need to bend your knees, you can also take your hands behind you, and that may make this a bit more accessible for you. You can also, let's see, you can also turn your body, let's see, I'm going to do the opposite side, since I just did that, and this is in a class and I'm not very balanced here. Turn to face one leg, bring the thigh over that leg, and you can reach down and then begin to open that opposite shoulder up towards the sky, really opening here in our side body. You could take your hand behind your back and let your head fall over. You can inhale the arm up and over. Maybe you can reach the foot with the opposite arm. I mean, not so much, really. And one last thing that I can kind of sort of show you today, but not completely, because I'm outside, which is where I really love to practice yoga, other than the ants that crawl all over my yoga platform. You can bring yourself to a wall. So let's pretend the end of the mat is a wall, okay? And you would have your bolster not quite up against the wall. And you would bring yourself, hopefully you're going to be, I'm going to bring this a little bit over so that you can see what I'm doing. So pretend that where my feet are basically is kind of a wall. And you can bring yourself on top of the bolster. Come on down to your elbows and all the way down. You could also do this without a bolster. Bring your legs up towards the sky. They're now resting against the wall. There's a wall on the back of my legs. And let your legs begin to open. I love to do Dragon at the Wall, a bandit. It feels really good. It makes it a bit more accessible once again because you have something supporting the backs of your legs, but you have gravity working on your legs. Oops, hopefully you can see that, and bandit's not blocking me completely. What is it, bud? Okay, and when you're done, you can take your hands to your outer thighs and bring your legs back together. You can go into legs up the wall. You could just hang out like I am for a few minutes. This is always a great pose to do anytime you've been really active or you're really tired or you've been traveling. I have been known to do this in bed. In fact, I did that just this week. There are days I go back and forth to visit my elderly mother, and there are days I come back and I am, seriously, I'm just completely physically and emotionally drained. And I know that I've been driving for a few hours, and I know I should do something. So I'll get into bed, and I will just do this. This is not Dragonfly, of course. This is Legs Up the Wall. But Legs Up the Wall is one of your best friends. Okay, if you're practicing with me, bring your legs down, lift your hips, take the bolster out. And like I said, you can do that without a bolster. You can go just like this. I often do that, and I really enjoy that. Apparently, Bandit really enjoys that. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope this gave you a variation of Dragonfly that feels good in your body. It is really a great pose to practice for getting more range of motion in our hamstrings and our hips. And it's also really good for grief, anytime that we're feeling grief, because it helps work the lung and small intestine meridians. And those are very important in helping to let go of grief. If you like this video, go ahead and click the like button and subscribe so we can talk or practice again in the future.